Greetings all, and welcome back to another episode of Eye of the Beholder, where we review the Dungeon & Dragon miniatures created by WOTC and WizKids during the 20 years between 2003 and 2023. As I teased in my last video, we'll be tackling the many demon miniatures today, but before that, a little appetizer, an amuse-bouche if you will. Meet the Dalkir, an immortal extraplanar race from Zoriat, also known as the Realm of Madness, so not exactly a big tourist destination. Despite appearances, these humanoid creatures are sexless creatures. How they reproduce is unknown. Fun fact, Dalkir are the creators of many of the aberrations that plague the mortal planes.
Both Dalkir minis come from 2020's Eberron Rising from the Last War set. Belashirma appears as a human female with long blonde hair, nicely detailed facial features, and a striking red dress, but not as striking as the halo of eyes that circle her head. WizKids does a fantastic job with this detail, each eye distinct within the translucent circle, plus the added bonus of another eye levitating in her left hand. Score: Paint 21, Pose 14, Playability 10, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 70. Our second is Drin the Corruptor, considered the most powerful of the Dalkir. Appearing as a pale human male with a leather cassock that reaches to his feet, and displaying his signature feature, the tentacles at the base and that extend from each arm, which can reach out and extract the brain from his victims, Illithid style. Another cool mini that, outside of the Eberron setting, probably won't get much play. Score: Paint 18, Pose 16, Playability 10, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 64.
And on to the main show. Abhorrent overlords are demons native to the Theros setting. Insatiably drawn to gold, they have the ability to sense it within 1,000 feet and will concentrate its attacks to get it. Besides the usual retinue of demonic powers, an overlord can summon a storm of crows to swarm the PCs, obscuring vision, disrupting spellcasting, and distracting fighters.
Naturally enough, our only abhorrent overlord mini comes from the Mythic Odyssey of Theros set from 2020. Using a curved stand that attaches to the back allows the mini to be posed in midair, hovering before its victims with wings outstretched and curled inward to cup the air. His black body is accented with gold. Note the bracers, loincloth, shoulder harness, and horn crown he wears. And of course, he has a murder of crows rising up behind him joining the fray. Score: Paint 17, Pose 25, Playability 11, Pizzazz 23, for a score of 76.
Abyssal chickens are actually demons. I know, I double-checked. As you can imagine, they are hunted by other demons as food. Whether they actually taste like chicken is a question best unanswered. Traveling in flocks across the abyssal plains, they are actually quite fast on their three-toed feet, attacking with tooth and claw if cornered. Fun fact, some evil spellcasters use them for familiars.
We get our only Abyssal Chicken mini in the Baldar's Gate Descent into Avernus set of 2019. As with most small minis, it's difficult to get much in the way of detailing on the sculpt, although WizKids does mount it on a teeny tiny clear stand to give it a bit of air. Two-tone brown is it for color. Fortunately, WizKid did make this a common, so it should be easy to get a flock if needed. Score: Paint 11, Pose 13, Playability 14, Pizzazz 11, for a score of 49.
Armonites are bloodthirsty fiends that live for warfare, acting as the heavy cavalry of the demonic armies, charging across the abyss to wreak havoc. They resemble undead centaurs, albeit with horns sticking out of their brows and a serrated tail. Armonites are the definition of chaos, fighting amongst themselves when they are not in battle, and just as likely to leave a battle or even turn on their employees for any reason or no reason at all.
Our only Armonite minis also come from the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus set of 2019, except we get two of them. The first version charges into battle unarmed, ready to rend its foes with tooth and claw, while the second readies a bolt of lightning to launch at its enemies. Did I forget to mention they can do that? WizKids again uses a sturdy stand to allow the minis to be posed rearing up on their hind legs. Paint is identical, dark brown for the body, with a bit of black and silver banding to protect the flanks. Score: Paint 15, Pose 18, Playability 15, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 63.
The Baboo first appeared in the AD&D Monster Manual 2 of 1983. These demons are the spies and assassins of the Abyss, their tall, gaunt bodies blending easily into the shadows. Unlike most demons, they are quite cautious, only attacking after carefully observing their target. Fun fact, due to their nature, every demon lord keeps a gang of baboos to act as agents for recruiting other, lesser demons into their lord's respective armies, which makes them unpopular among the lesser demons.
Our first WOTC demon. From 2005's Night Below set, we get this uncommon Baboo. The uniform black body allows the pinpoints of the eyes and fangs to really stand out, as does the pose. Arms raised up in preparation to strike, to be followed up with a wicked bite from the needle-like teeth. The wrinkled, gaunt body is creature correct, as is the single horn rising from the back of his head. Score: Paint 12, Pose 13, Playability 14, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 53. "14 years later, we get these two baboos from the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus set of 2019. The common is barehanded, while the uncommon wields a barbed spear. WizKids goes with a light gray for coloring, adding red forearms and claws to simulate the blood and filth they are generally coated with. Smaller than the WOTC versions, but we do get a tail, a detail WOTC missed. Pose is identical, hunched forward, filthy claws extended and fangs exposed. Score: Paint 13, Pose 14, Playability 15, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 55. Our final Baboo comes 3 years later in 2022's Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft set. Called a Whistling Fiend, this jet black Baboo stands very tall on its clear base, made to look even taller due to the silver-tipped spear it holds grounded in its right hand. Interesting and disturbing detail, it looks like he's holding a heart in his left hand. I think he's about to enjoy a little snack. And, like the WOTC version, the white of the eyes and fangs really pop against the black. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 14, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 61.
The Balor, with its fiery whip, huge sword, and furnace-like maw, bears an uncanny and I'm sure purely coincidental likeness to Tolkien's Balrog. They are the strongest of the demons, generals of the demonic armies, and often princelings under the demon lords they owe fealty to. They have powers and abilities that are far too numerous to mention, but here's a fun one. They can focus on a single creature and force it to explode. I cannot emphasize enough that only the most powerful adventuring parties should ever attempt to take on a Balor.
That being said, our first Balor mini from 2005's Underdark set is unimpressive by today's standards, but it was a beast in its day. Its very well-defined torso, red with a dark wash that brings out every contour of its muscular chest and extremities, it sneers disdainfully down at its foes, great sword and fiery whip ready to attack. Wings, swept back and held high, are well done, and I like the extra detail of the silver bands on its horns. Score: Pain 18, Pose 17, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 77. Now this is a Baylor. From 2009's Monster Manual Legendary Evil set, it is truly legendary. The massive body towers over WOTC's previous version, and the detailing of the body is truly magnificent. Every muscle, cord, and tendon clearly visible. And the iron codpiece is a very cool touch. Leaning into the attack, he holds his sword high and at the ready while he cracks his fiery whip before him, daring anyone to challenge. Fantastic face with yellow eyes and a cool fin running down its back. How can this mini get anything else but 100? WizKids' one and only Baylor from 2019's Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage set is pretty good in its own right, but pales in comparison to the last mini. Obviously smaller than the WOTC version, it also does not nearly fill the base as completely, which really emphasizes its lack of size. We do get cool translucent plastic for the weapons, a bluish sword with crackling lightning, and a translucent orange whip trailing behind the body. There's a lot of cool details in this mini. Note the skull-like palms protecting the knees, the chain bracers, and the grayish mane trailing from the head. Score: Paint 25, Pose 20, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 87.
The Barogurus are the most animalistic of the demons and, while certainly evil, are mostly indifferent to the various battles among the demon factions, preferring to live quietly in their territories, which they mark with various tokens and fetishes, not to mention the occasional dead body or two they leave as warnings to stay out. Barogurus prefer guerrilla tactics when fighting, no pun intended, using their ability to turn invisible to ambush their prey.
We get our one true Barogura mini in 2007's Desert of Desolation set. Crouched gorilla-like with his hands balled into fists, he looks like he's about to pound someone flat. The dark wash on his brown fur really brings out the contours of his musculature, as well as the fur itself, and I like the silver wristbands, complete with an intricate design. Finally, the face is fantastic. Heavy brows over beady eyes, with the fangs and tusks clearly displayed. Score: Paint 25, Pose 22, Playability 20, Pizzazz 21, for a score of 88. We do get a Barogura variant in the Baldur's Gate Descendant of Avernus set of 2019. Yanugu is the demon lord and the patron god of gnolls. He apparently has the ability to infect demons who become hybrids, taking on gnollish forms and traits along with their demonic ones. This Yanugu's Barogura is the first example of this. Far thinner and distinctly gnoll-like, nice touch with the bone spurs sprouting from the arms and back. It is posed as if about to pounce, legs bent and maw agape, with red tongue clearly visible. Score: Paint 16, Pose 17, Playability 11, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 59.
Beebaliths are spider-like demons who roam the abyss, preying on anything that moves, particularly other demons. Intelligent but non-communicative, they hunt their chosen target with dogged determination, not stopping until they catch and devour it. Fun fact, Beebaliths are favored by Lolth and are often summoned by drow clerics and mages to do their bidding.
Our only Beebalith mini comes in the last WOTC set, 2010's Lords of Madness. Even though it's set on a huge base, its 6 spider legs still stick out beyond it, while its front sickle-like arms are raised in a strike position. Color-wise, this is the true definition of uniformity, a metallic blue from the warty body down to its toes. This would make for a great wandering monster encounter for should your PCs find themselves in the abyss. Score: Paint 12, Pose 15, Playability 14, Pizzazz 19, for a score of 60.
Like vampires, blood fiends feast on the blood of the living. They stalk through the abyss, looking for victims, usually other, weaker demons, but they would certainly enjoy feeding on the PCs. Their most obvious feature is their forearms tipped with razor-sharp claws. Fun fact, blood fiends can immobilize their prey with a glance, making feeding much easier.
Our only Blood Fiend mini also comes from WOTC's Lords of Madness set. Poses of stalking its next meal, arms wide apart from the body. By the way, kudos to WOTC for getting the hands right, as Blood Fiends have 5 fingers per hand. Paint is blood red, with just a hint of white on the toe claws and fangs. Score: Paint 12, Pose 13, Playability 13, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 52.
Buluzal are goat-like demons who make up for their lack of size with primal fury in battle, often acting as frontline troops in the demonic armies. You cannot emphasize enough how much these demons live for battle. If there are no enemies to fight, they will find one, or if they can't, fight amongst themselves, using weapons, tooth and claw, plus their long, spine-tipped tail.
Our only Buluzal mini comes to us from the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus set of 2019. Pose crouch very low. Note his left hand is on the ground, while his long spine-tipped tail curls around its back. Gray of body, with dark brown fur on its shoulders and chest, it is clad only in a light brown loincloth. Ram's horns, matching the fur, complete the look, although I do wish it was armed with a spear. Score: Paint 14, Pose 14, Playability 13, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 56.
Cacklers are small fiends with the ability to shoot fire darts at will at their enemies, while defending themselves with a chain flail. Often used as spies by the various demonic lords, they can mimic any sound they hear, including voices. Fun fact, when a cackler dies, it lets loose with a last laugh, causing psychic damage to all who hear it.
We get our only Cackler mini in 2018's Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica set. For a small mini, it's pretty nicely detailed, with black spots across the red head and body, matching black horns, and gray pupilless eyes. Brandishing its signature chain flail, to me it looks more like he's posturing than attacking, trying to bluff his way out of a fight. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 13, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 55.
Carnage demons, also known as Vistros, live up to their name. Found on every layer of the abyss, they exist only to murder and destroy. They tend to eschew weapons, preferring to slash their prey to ribbons with their powerful, overly long arms tipped with razor-sharp claws.
Our only Carnage demon comes from WOTC's Night Below set of 2007. Posed in full crouch with its muscular arms resting on the ground, it looks like an extremely muscular gorilla. A glossy black hide shows off the muscles of its arms, chest, and back, with the only hint of color the white of his fangs. A comment helps playability. I imagine these things attack in groups. Score: Paint 11, Pose 12, Playability 14, Pizzazz 12, for a score of 49.
As the name implies, Cerebrilis are demons that combine immense physical strength with a high intelligence, able to wield psionics in addition to their fiendish abilities. Their hunchback stance belies their true size and exposes their most hideous feature, its exposed brain beneath a latticework of spinal bones. They only tend to hunt intelligent creatures, attacking with blasts of psionic power before closing to melee range in an attempt to extract the target's brain for future study.
Our only Cerebellith mini also comes from the Night Below set of 2007, and everything about it matches what I just told you. The crouched body with the pink of the brain peeking out from under the bones along its back. The body itself is uniform brown with a bit of dark wash for detailing, and although the crouch is probably the standard position for this demon, I get the impression that it's about to spring forward and attack. Score: Paint 14, Pose 17, Playability 12, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 60.
Chasmes are insectoid-like demons who enjoy torturing their victims. They're often employed by the greater demons as interrogators and torturers, as well as capturing any who escape their clutches. With their long proboscis and translucent wings, they look like horrid flies, with voices that sound like a droning buzz. Fun fact, the sound of their wings causes those who hear it to fall into a deep sleep, often awakening to find the chasmes sucking their blood from their bodies.
We get 2 Chasme minis, one from each manufacturer. The WOTC version comes to us in, appropriately enough, 2006's Blood War set. The sky blue of its wings offers a sharp contrast to the black of the body, while the pose has it grounded and about to take a terrific swipe with its taloned hand upon an unfortunate victim. All in all, not bad, but the WizKids version is better. Score: Paint 12, Pose 14, Playability 13, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 54. See? From 2015's Rage of Demons set, WizKids gives us an airborne Chasme demon. The clear stand is thin but sturdy, allowing the mini to fly about the playmat with ease. Dark blue body with a black underbelly and matching hair and eyes. I particularly like the translucent wings. Pose to me appears to be hovering over a target, ready to drive its needle-like proboscis into the body. And it's uncommon to boot. Score: Paint 18, Pose 20, Playability 16, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 74.
And with that, we'll bring this episode of Eye of the Beholder to a close. We'll continue our review of Demon Minis next week, picking things back up with the Dretch. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like what you see. See you all next week.